But going back to the deep spiritual aspect of creativity, and then I want to talk about the healing aspect, which is really the value that creativity brings to humanity. Unfortunately, creativity is this highly misunderstood aspect of the human experience. It's one of our superpowers that we don't leverage. And the main reason why we don't leverage it is because we misconceive what it really means. It's so much deeper than just art. People associate creativity with art. And the reason why is that the way we're taught creativity in school is we play the recorder, we play with crayons. And if we weren't good at drawing, if our crayon went outside the lines, the cliche outside the lines, if we weren't good at creating drawings and playing a piece of music on a recorder, for the rest of our lives, we told ourselves, I am not creative, when what we really meant is, I am not artistic. Creativity is so much more than art. It's an ability to think critically. It's problem solving, going even deeper. It's one of the most spiritual aspects of being a human. Your imagination, Albert Einstein says this about the imagination, by the way, and the imagination is the launching pad of our creativity, and we all have imagination. Albert Einstein says that logic will take you from A to B. Imagination will take you everywhere, and it literally does if we invite it to, if we allow it to. But it has to be stimulated, and in order to stimulate something, you have to understand it. But going back to the deep spiritual aspect of creativity, and then I want to talk about the healing aspect, which is really the value that creativity brings to humanity. It is such a cathartic mindset that enables us to be free, to heal. And let me quickly address the healing aspect first, because it's so overlooked. There are endless healing modalities. My two favorite, other than creativity, is MFR, something that I was introduced to, myofascial or myofascial release. This is something that I was introduced to about 30 years ago while in Cirque du Soleil. One of the therapists there didn't quite follow the more conventional rehab treatment that Cirque du Soleil prescribed, and she was there temporarily, filling in, and she started doing this myofascial release on my abdomen. In a nutshell, the very short, simplified, rudimentary version, it's stretching. You've got a film, a layer, if you visualize cellophane wrap, you've got a layer of cellophane wrap around your body. And this stores tension. It stores trauma. Everything that your body has experienced is a memory that gets stored in the body. And I was experiencing a series of injuries in Cirque du Soleil, and I was getting all the physiotherapy, the treatment, icing, ibuprofen, strength exercises, you name it. I was going through the gamut of all the possible physical treatments to minimize injury. And by the way, the Cirque du Soleil therapists, they are highly, highly qualified in biodynamics, in all those aspects of how the body functions. They know what they're doing. Now, MFR has now become, and I was recently reminded of MFR by an acquaintance, a dear friend, and it reminded me of, oh my God, when I was getting this treatment, I felt in some of the best ways that I possibly could. As a healing modality, this was amazing. Why? Because, and this ties into creativity, there is a link. I'm going to explain how the two tie together in multiple ways. So the body stores trauma, and for the most part, how do we treat trauma, pain, ailments physically? We stretch, we take medication, we are told to do certain activities like working out to stimulate endorphins. We are told to meditate, to re-regulate the nervous system, to calm it down. Told to go for hikes, and all these practices I do. Gardening, putting your hands in earth, stimulating serotonin, all these modalities, all these healing modalities, bring incredible value, and they do help people on their journey of healing. And so going back to the myofascia, as she stretched and was doing this strange abdominal stretching, I started to realize, wow, my shoulder is less tight. And because my shoulder is less tight, I've got more range of motion. And because I've got more range of motion, I feel stronger and I'm not getting injured each and every time that I'm doing trapeze. I don't have to go and ice my shoulder immediately after because it's burning and it's really painful. And then my hip started to release. I'd always had issues with a level of flexibility based on the tension, the tightness in my hip. And she went even deeper. She started explaining how these injuries were not necessarily physical. And this is where creativity starts to come into it, because you're starting to view things from a different perspective, things that maybe we haven't been taught in a conventional way. And she started explaining, yes, highly likely, the reason why you're getting these chronic injuries is because your body has stored high levels of trauma, those emotions that ignite, fuel that trauma, make the body cramp up on itself, get tight. It's all based on your emotional state. And the myofascia release, the operative word is the release, and that ties into creativity, because through creativity, through art, now I'm bringing art back into the equation as only one avenue of creativity, but through our expression, we are releasing, which is what MFR does. It's a release. Creativity is a release of pent-up emotions, pent-up thoughts. And what she was explaining is that due to the type of injuries that I had, emotionally, they were suggesting that I was carrying resentment, anger, hurt, abandonment issues. And I didn't want to acknowledge it at first, but she was spot on. Later on in life, I would discover, yes, I knew that I'd experienced trauma, my childhood trauma. I knew that, but I thought that I'd overcome it. I thought that I'd mastered it through meditation, through exercise, through dance. But yet here it still was. And now here I am 20, 30 years later, having been reminded to go back to that. I've always been creative and I do paint, and it has been my form of therapy that I didn't know that it was my therapy. I was releasing all that pent-up trauma through my artwork, and I didn't even know that it was a healing modality. We now talk commonplace about holistic medicine. Art therapy is the new trend. It is a holistic form of medicine. And we have to encourage people to tap into this ability to express themselves. But we're afraid to express ourselves because we've got to conform, we've got to fit into boxes and compartments. And I can't express myself because I'm going to upset my circle, my community, because they think differently. So the other level of creativity is it's about understanding who you are. You have to connect with you. And the truest version of you, your authenticity, is a very spiritual thing, of the spirit. I'm not talking religion, but if religion is your thing, it is divine. But your authenticity is the mirror, the expression, the release, the reflection, the communication of your soul. This is how you deeply feel and process life. This is how you base your opinions. It's through your authenticity. And when we don't express that over time, our body experiences trauma that can now manifest in the many forms: physical, mental health, and then we turn to addictions as a form of soothing. And really what it comes down to is that there is an overload of traumatic experiences, emotions in our body, that it has now manifested as a physical thing, when really it's an emotional thing triggered, stimulated by our thoughts. And our thoughts are stimulated by the things that we experience and how we respond to them. So get in touch with your creativity. Think Like an Artist was written for this purpose, to get in touch with your creativity, to stimulate your creativity. But wait, there's more. The other bonus about connecting to your creativity is it's a level of emotional intelligence. You will discover the true essence of who you are. Going back to authenticity, you will discover the true essence of who you are. Maybe that leads to finding your sense of purpose. Why are we here? So creativity is a healing modality through expression, through release. It is a spiritual modality connecting to your most authentic self. And by the way, the highest vibration on the planet is not love. The highest vibration is authenticity. We're so afraid to be who we're meant to be.